With me is Robert Habeck, the German Vice Chancellor, Minister for Economic Affairs and Chancellor candidate for the Green Party. Mr. Habeck, while you were on stage here, the new President Donald Trump was sworn in the United States. How distracted is Germany at this moment of drastic upheaval? It is, despite all the annoyance of the last coalition we're leaving behind. It is extremely inconvenient that Germany is so preoccupied with itself, with an election campaign and no budget. We also see instability in France. Austria has no government, with maybe worse things to come. The Belgians have problems, and the Dutch are fighting among themselves. This is not a good time for Europe to be preoccupied with itself, because Trump won't wait. He'll just push forward. The Chinese won't wait. The world won't wait for us. So we need to find a way to quickly end this troubled phase and represent Europe as strong and united. Germany is sliding ever deeper into recession. You yourself have said that Germany needs growth to stabilize this society. Yet people fear tariffs from the US. How much do you need Donald Trump to be able to produce growth here? I don't understand. Why would we need Trump? I mean, if he imposes tariffs now, then you have to consider how you will address this and how you will plan to prevent the German economy from further slowing down. Well, it's actually the other way round. Donald Trump and his protectionist policies could once again delay or hamper Germany's economic recovery. We are an export nation. We have slightly more than 80 million citizens and are the third largest economy in the world. How do we manage that? We sell our goods all over the world, so to believe that the concept of German products for Germans with German money, as the AfD likes to tell us, is just complete nonsense. Now we see that the world is increasingly withdrawing into its separate spheres of influence. China is entering the market very aggressively and no longer buys everything we produce, and the USA is starting to protect its domestic market. This is a very big challenge for Germany. We must and can respond to this by negotiating new trade agreements, for example, with Mercosur countries. At the same time, Europe must make it clear to the Americans that a tariff dispute, a tariff war even, would harm all of us. That is the lesson Donald Trump is teaching us. Europe must stand united and Germany must play its part in that. Well, the question is, how are you going to do that? You yourself warned on stage that one should stop pandering to the likes of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. How do you intend to create this stability and growth while preventing an economic clash? Europe is prepared. If the Americans impose tariffs, which I hope they won't, Europe would be able to take countermeasures that would affect the American economy, including the consumer sector. But that is the wrong way. Nobody wants tariffs. I'm just saying that Europe must prepare for an arm wrestle with the Americans in the hope that we can avoid it. Above all, Europe must do its homework, and Germany too, as part of Europe. We have to invest more into our own country. For decades, we've opted for rundown infrastructure, lack of innovative strength. That is why we have to significantly improve tax incentives, research budgets, and create a more competitive environment for growth, so the economy can grow, but also so that we produce the technologies of the future here in Europe. We should be thinking along the lines, the next Google has to come from Europe. We've seen over the past weeks that Donald Trump, Elon Musk, and also Meta's Mark Zuckerberg have a fundamentally different understanding of media freedom than Europe does. Is that a red line for you? If Donald Trump were to apply pressure, that you'd have to accommodate the US or someone like Elon Musk? Well, Elon Musk has a fundamentally different understanding. I mean, a wrong one. It's a vulgar understanding of freedom when you say everything is allowed. That might makes right. Even the strongest, most powerful, need rules and limitations. Democracy is the ability to freely determine which rules we set for ourselves and, if necessary, limit power. I believe Mark Zuckerberg is being a bit opportunistic because actually his company, Facebook, Instagram and so on, already had a better fact-checking system, and not just anyone could spread lies. But the European understanding must change, namely that in the end we build communication that brings people together, provides solutions, and doesn't just divide and tear a country apart. This means that in the end we need to somehow develop our own technological competence in this area as quickly as possible. Is it a red line for you to possibly have to bend to Elon Musk's will and deregulate social media? Yes, of course it is. Where our community, our democracy is being undermined, we should put a stop to it. But we are far from that point. We need first to understand what is happening. For example, how X works. The same applies to TikTok. The European Commission has this power. It can force companies to disclose their algorithms, meaning how they work. We should take a very close look at that, and if it turns out, for example, that racist, hate-spreading tweets are always pushed to the top, leading everyone to think, oh, this is the majority opinion in the country, then action can be taken. But first, the priority is to understand what is actually happening. Creating this transparency is now a European task. Now, within the government, there is one last potential conflict with the Chancellor on the topic of Ukraine. 3 billion euros are still pending. Interestingly, however, your demand for 3.5% in military spending is still closest to Donald Trump's 5% demand. Do you believe you will manage to get those 3 billion through in the final week of parliamentary sessions? Is there a certain similarity to Donald Trump's thinking when it comes to Germany taking on more responsibility? No, not at all. I assume that Donald Trump is inflating the numbers. But that was not my point at all. My point is not about the numbers, but the logic behind it. If we believe and conclude that Europe has a security problem, that Germany has a security problem within Europe, simply because we have a neglected military, if we recognize that in the past we have invested too little in our defense and security capabilities, and now need to catch up as quickly as possible, and if we can agree on this collectively, then we simply have to do it. And if the answer is we can't do it because the debt brake stands in the way, then the debt brake is a security brake. My point isn't whether it's 2.9, 3.3 or 3.5%. The 3.5% is the debate being held in NATO, and Pistorius essentially reaffirmed it recently. But it's not the number that matters, it's the logic behind it. If there's a problem, it needs to be solved. We can't just ignore the problem and hope it won't affect us anymore. That's my approach. I think Trump approaches it completely differently. He just throws out random numbers, and if it were 5 now, he'd probably say 9. That's absolutely not how I think. What needs to be done must be done. That's the point. According to current polls, your party isn't really in the running to win the election, but perhaps you can hope to be part of a coalition with the CDU-CSU. Markus Söder has ruled out the possibility of you remaining as Minister of Economic Affairs in such a scenario. Would that be a red line for you?
Markus
Söder doesn't concern me at all for now. Markus Söder is solely Friedrich Merz's problem, and I'm not paying much attention to the polls. They're actually looking pretty good. We've climbed from 10 to 14 or 15%. How long ago was that now? Maybe 10 weeks? Let someone else first try to match that. We're roughly where we were in the last federal election, but that's not all. It shouldn't stop there. What matters more is the momentum, the dynamic, and that can grow stronger. I'm confident that a lot will happen in the coming weeks. We're going in the right direction, the numbers are going up, and we'll see how far they rise. I'll fight to make sure they rise significantly. At the moment, you're dealing with an internal scandal within the Green Party. A party member, a potential candidate, has withdrawn from the race and was replaced by your own campaign manager. How do you plan to resolve this within the party, especially since this is no longer just a regional issue in Berlin? These are incidents within the party organization in Berlin state, and they are shocking, I must say, not just unsettling. It's absolutely right that this is being thoroughly investigated now, that everything is being analyzed and brought to light. Primarily, this is the task of the State Party Association, and the Federal Executive Board has made it very clear today that a legal complaint will be filed against the woman who spread these lies. We're also re-evaluating and restructuring the internal ombuds process. That's what can and should be done now, and the Federal Executive Board will certainly continue to address this consistently. What do you see as the main way to counter the rise of the far-right AfD, especially the extremist tendencies within that party? The success of democratic parties. And the success of democratic parties will, in turn, weaken the allure of right-wing populism. When people see that coming together and pursuing politics that promote understanding and unity is successful, then undecided people will move in that direction as well. Politics, of course, is also a kind of marketplace where success is always admired. That's why a progressive, democratic, liberal, and I would even say friendly approach must always be more successful than the message of hate offered by the AfD. That's what we advocate for, and I'm confident that other parties will join in. Many of them are likely already on this path. However, there must always be more people working towards success than towards destruction. Right now, you're receiving a lot of criticism for a vague proposal regarding the taxation of capital gains to benefit healthcare, security and financing. When will you provide concrete figures, and overall, how are you feeling at the moment during this election campaign? Yes, it's very telling. Those who criticize are the ones who don't have a single proposal of their own. The way I see it, the problem just keeps getting bigger. So the SPD continues raising social contributions, the share of wages people can keep gets smaller, and the Conservative parties don't even see it as a problem. These are all just rhetorical clichés being thrown around. What matters to me is taking the pressure off normal working people, the ones who make things run here, everyone in the statutory health insurance system. This is a relief proposal, and it has to happen. I don't think it's right that wage taxes keep rising. If others have a better proposal, I'm all for it. I just don't know any. The criticism was you didn't get specific about your plan. Yes, because I first of all described the problem. The question was, what do we do about the fact that taxes on wages, on labour wages, are constantly rising, and they will keep rising if we don't find another solution, and that needs to be addressed first. And of course, it's always easy to lean back and say, someone made a proposal, I don't like it, and even turn it around as if my goal was to take something away from people who work hard for a living. That was never the idea, but the key point is that the others aren't proposing anything. There's no proposal. We've outlined the model of a citizens' insurance system, that's part of it, and now we can discuss whether it's the right proposal. But it's better to criticize if you have your own proposal, and I'm waiting for that from Friedrich Merz and Olaf Scholz. One last question, a prediction. In what position will people see you after February the 23rd? Back in government? That's what I'm working towards, of course. Robert Habeck, Vice Chancellor, Minister for Economic Affairs and Chancellor candidate for the Green Party, thank you.